I found a few out of bounds glitches running around Europa lately. Hopefully these don't get patched, but if they do, I'll try and find some more. First is actually right outside the Charon's Crossing spawn area. Go left of the satellite dish building as if you were going to Cadmus Ridge. Once you enter this tunnel, look up and you'll see a hole in the ceiling. You can't reach this as far as I know unless you jump from a stasis crystal, so you'll need to throw a stasis grenade or shoot Salvation's Grip. You won't be able to shoot or use any abilities unless you go a little further and load into the next area. Then just go back to the tunnel. Once you jump through, you'll be able to run over this way. Don't let Bungie scare you away with a turn back warning. Just run through and it'll go away. From here, there's a lot to explore. I won't show you too much, I'll let you see it for yourselves. The next spot is definitely the easiest to perform. It doesn't require any specific weapons or subclass, you really just walk out of the map. Go ahead and spawn in Eventide Ruins. If you don't have this spawn point, you should be able to just ride your Sparrow over here. Next, follow this path over to this building on the edge of the cliff. You'll see this beam going out over the edge. Walk out onto it and turn 180 degrees to face the building. You can see this broken air duct that you can jump on very easily. Once you're on here, just walk between the walls and you're out of the map. If you walk to the end of this beam, you fall through into a cool little room. And if you drop down here, you can go way down under the map. If you're trying to get over this big chunk of ice but you keep dying, try falling lower before jumping. There seems to be a kill plane that you have to fall under. Lastly, there's this spot over by the strike in Asterian Abyss. Once you're at the entrance of the strike, take a left and jump over this ledge. This is a pretty cool little area, but if you go all the way to the back up against this wall, you can look down and see a big hole in the floor. It's easy to get stuck or go the wrong way and get killed. But if you drop down here and make sure to take a right instead of a left, you'll fall down to this platform and survive. You can keep going down to this untextured platform. I wouldn't be surprised if this could be used to cheese the strike, assuming you can platform all the way to the end room and get to the checkpoint, but I'll let you Nightfall guys figure that out. There's also a little array of Cabal assets. Pretty cool. Given how old the Cosmodrome is, it's surprisingly polished, but if you look hard enough, you'll find some holes in the map. Today, I'll show you 3 of those. The first is super easy. If you spawn up here at Skywatch Point, you'll see this big crashed hive ship. On the right of it is a big pile of rubble. At the top of that rubble is a hole in the ground, but it's really tough to get to the top of the pile. There's a sort of soft invisible wall here that pushes you away, but with enough effort you can get past it. Go for jumps that have a good initial burst to overcome the invisible force. Once you're through, if you can't find anywhere to go, try squeezing through right here. Next is in the Divide. To get there, run back from the normal spawn area until you exit the building into the Divide. On the right, you can see a concrete wall. Run over to it and try jumping over it. You might need a stasis crystal to get over it, since you need to jump from a high place to get up onto it. Again, there's an invisible force pushing you back down. But with the right setup and timing, you can get up onto the wall before it pushes you down. Keep running before the turn back kills you and drop down. And lastly, there's actually another spot in the Divide. This one's right at the entrance of the Lost Sector. This could be useful in skipping the Lost Sector, but I'm not sure. Jump up to this platform like you're about to do the Lost Sector, but then check out this gap on the wall on the left. If you jump up over this sheet of metal, you can jump through this hole and fall down out of the map. And I thought I'd include this cool room you can get to by jumping at the right spot on this wall. There's not much to see, and it's kind of tough to get out of, but it's pretty neat. The Dreaming City is one of my favorite areas, and it looks like it's going away soon. So before it's gone, let's check out these 3 out-of-bounds glitches. The first of which is over in the Strand. Once you load into the area, continue left down this path until you see this rock formation. Jump up as I do here, and you can drop right down and out of bounds. There's actually another way to get here. If you keep going down the path to this entrance, you can scale this cliff until you find some floating rocks. Then, a little past them is a hole in the ground that will spit you out right in the same area. The second spot is also in the Strand. This time though, take a right after loading into the area and follow this path here. Once you're in this clearing, you're going to want to get up and over this cliff. Getting up this cliffside can be a little tricky, but once you make it, run over and drop down quickly before you're killed by the turn back warning. Lastly, there's one over in this place. Follow this path until you see this drop off on the left. There aren't really any defining features of where you should drop, but when you look down it should look like this. Drop down near this crevice on the left. You should be able to land on a little platform. If you go too far away from the crevice, you die. The idea is to jump up through the crevice onto the ledge on the other side, but the hitbox on the walls is a little funny, so it might take a few tries. Just wanted to make this video real quick. I found a few spots to get out of bounds in the first room of Dares of Eternity. Once you load in from the treasure hoard, go over to this little cave area that you go through to get Forerunner. If you look up right after entering this cave and jump up, you can see a little ledge that goes back. It's a bit tricky, but if you can land on it, you can walk out of bounds. Also, if you go all the way up to the room with the cryopod in it where you actually pick up the Forerunner, you can jump through the ceiling right here. You might need stasis crystals. I think it's possible without them, but it may be pretty difficult. After that, get over this ledge and fall down onto this big structure. Over here, you can jump up and see a big crack on the ground that you can enter. There's quite a lot to see out here, and it might be useful in the activity. I don't know. Nessus is one of Destiny 2's largest and oldest patrol areas, so there's bound to be some glitches. Here's 3 that I found. The first of them is right off the spawn in Exodus Black. It's a way to get behind the big ship thing that Failsafe is a part of. Or maybe that is Failsafe? Anyway, you can see here that it's just a simple matter of coming over here and jumping over and out. From here, you can actually get behind a purple wall thing that blocks you from entering a strike. Pretty cool. Next up is over in Watcher's Grave. You want to head over to this sort of ring thing over here. Climb up this wall off to the right. Once you're at the top, it's again just as easy as jumping over. Lastly, there's one on this path between the Tangle and the cistern. It's on the end closest to the cistern. You can tell you're at the right spot when you see this globe thing sticking up out of the ground near this doorway. Go over to the corner and work your way up, trying to get onto this ledge. I've done it without stasis crystals, but I'm honestly not sure how I did. With stasis crystals though, it's pretty easy. Once you're out, run over here onto these cave rocks before you're killed by the turn back warning. That's it for Nessus. I was recently revisiting the EDZ when I realized how much I liked it as a patrol area. I also ran into quite a bit of out of bounds glitches. Here's a few that I found. First off is this one. It's honestly kind of underwhelming since there isn't very much to explore, but I had to show it because of how easy it is to do. After you enter the outskirts, check out this building on the right. If you go around behind it, you can jump up the side and right onto the roof. The only way to get onto the roof is from this angle. Once you're on, you can just sit in the grass, or you can climb this hill and get a pretty cool view of this little clearing that you weren't meant to see. If you drop down, you'll probably get killed. I have been able to get to the ground and explore before, but I just keep dying this time. If it seems like I ripped you off by including a kind of weak area like that, go over to the tunnels, and you'll have a hard time staying in the map. This place is a wreck. I could probably find 30 or 40 areas in here to get out of the map. The second area is over in the Winding Cove near where Jur sits sometimes at this crashed skiff. You're going to want to climb this tree here first. Once you're up on the ledge, it'll start to tell you to turn back, so hurry and run past the foliage and off the cliff. Once you're down here, you might notice it's a little empty, but if you walk along this edge and drop down onto this cave, you'll be able to do quite a lot of exploring. This last one is actually a lot easier to pull off. Go over to the sludge and drive like you're going to the Whispering Falls Lost sector. But before you go in, climb up this cliff on the left. Once you're near the top, you should see some trees and a destroyed building. You can actually climb up here and drop down. This little spot is pretty cool, but you can go further past this big wall of fake trees and get to a seriously cool place. It reminds me of different biomes, with the lines on the ground separating distinct grass colors. You can actually explore the exterior of the Whispering Falls Lost sector, but I'll let you guys see that for yourselves. The moon has been one of my favorite areas ever since I first visited it in Destiny 1, and while doing some exploring, I came across a few out of bounds glitches. Let's check them out. The first one can be found in this cave between the Altar of Sorrows and the Hellmouth. Take a look to the right at this cracked green wall. If you jump up into the top right corner here, you'll fall right through. This is actually a pretty fun area to explore. It's a little claustrophobic though. The next one is back in Archer's Line. If you follow along this path, you'll eventually see these barriers on this little cliff. If you get too close or try to drop down, it'll give you a turn back warning, but if you ignore it and if you're quick enough, you can make it under and it'll go away. You might naturally want to jump over onto this ledge, but you'll die if you do that. Instead, slow down and stick to this lit up building thing. From here, there's quite a lot to explore. And finally, there's actually one just inside the Broodhold strike. Of course, spawn in the Altar of Sorrows and go towards the big tower. Go through this door and run through until it spits you out here. Look off to the left and notice these big rocks. One of them doesn't have any collision, so when I shoot it, the bullets go right through. But the bottom one does have collision. It'll be a bit confusing at first and you'll probably fall off the first time, but jump for the bottom rock and land on it. From here, you can actually climb up this whole cliffside. It's a little tricky if you don't have stasis crystals, but it's certainly possible. You get a pretty good view from up here, and you can even get up on the huge walls in the area you ran through earlier. Apparently, if you go all the way back onto this pillar after spawning in the Shattered Throne, you can stasis jump up it and get up onto the top of this huge room. I don't think it's really useful or anything, but it's still pretty cool. Just thought I'd share this in case you wanted to try it out. The Tangled Chore was by far the hardest area for me to find out of bounds glitches in, but eventually I did find a few. The first of which I actually found on YouTube from Comanche Gaming. You should go check him out. He has a really good video on some out of bounds glitches. I would have liked to have found all 3 on my own, but I'm not sure I would survive finding 3 of these. Anyways, there's a few ways you can do this. The easiest is if you have stasis crystals. Simply use them to get up this wall and onto this ledge. Then you're just going to try to get onto this thing. The collision over here is super weird, but you can always jump onto the roof of this building. If you miss and land on the platform instead of the building, it's all good. You can still jump over and out of bounds. The other way to do this is by scaling to the top of this building. You want to get all the way up to the highest one of these poles. From here, you can just barely make it over to this bridge if you have stompies on. If you still can't make it, try using a sword. From here, just take the same route and you're out. The next one is one I found over in Sorik's Cut. If you go over to this big electric spinning thing and jump up this way, you can jump around the side. Keep in mind, the collision won't let you walk on the first of these pillar things, but if you jump out around the first one, you can land on the others. Next, try and jump over to this ledge. Once you make it, walk over here and fall through this hole in the floor. From here I haven't found much that you can really do. Maybe you guys can. This next one though is a lot more exciting. Head over to the lost sector called Trapper's Cave, over in Fourhorn Gulch. The entrance can be a bit tricky to find. And let me just say, this place is really cool looking. Right after you load into the sector, you'll notice this hole in the ceiling letting light through. You can actually crawl right through this, if you can make it up there. After a little bit of climbing, you should be able to climb up onto something and slide right through the hole. And that's it for everywhere, actually. I appreciate you watching. Thanks. Take care.